দর্শক আমাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত অর্থসংলাপে। আপনাদের প্রিয় অনুষ্ঠান বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতির এগিয়ে যাওয়া, সংকট, সম্ভাবনা সবকিছু নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করি এই অনুষ্ঠানে। বিশ্ব অর্থনীতি আছে এখানে, আর আজকে বিশ্ব অর্থনীতি বেশি করে আসবে কারণ একজন প্রতিভাবান বাংলাদেশি, খুব সফল বাংলাদেশি, সারা বিশ্বের কর্পোরেট ওয়ার্ল্ডস একাডেমিক ওয়ার্ল্ডে তিনি আছেন আমাদের সাথে। লুৎফে সিদ্দিকী, তিনি সদ্য সাবেক ম্যানেজিং ডিরেক্টর অফ সুইস ব্যাংক, এখন অধ্যাপক লন্ডন স্কুল অফ ইকোনমিক্স এবং ন্যাশনাল ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ সিঙ্গাপুরের তিনি ভিজিটিং প্রফেসর, ভেরি হাই প্রোফাইল পার্সন। উই উইল টক with him about the global economy, what we passed in the just ended year and what we are going to have in the the year we have started. Mr. Lutfey Siddiqi, welcome to our Songlap.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's a great thing to have you in our show. Just to our New Year.
Yes. Happy
What do
New
you
Year.
see Happy New Year to our viewers, and what do you see this year for economy?
So the global economy, if you're looking at the world from outer space, you'll see two main centers. One is the US and the other is China. So the world GDP is about $75 billion in nominal terms.
Trillion?
Trillion, you're right, sorry, $1 trillion, of which 18 is the US and about 11 trillion is China. And between 2.5 and 5 billion, you'll find Japan there, Germany, France, UK, and so on. And by the time you get to number 14, everything else is below $1 trillion. So really the big players matter the most, and the main actors are the US and China. The supporting actors are the European Union and Japan, and then everyone else is a junior artist. The US is expected to grow at about 2.5%, which is below its trend. It's better than this year. It's better than 2016. But it's still below its trend. China is expected to grow at around 6.5%, which is quite high.
If you but think lesser than the last many years.
Yes, the growth rate is lower, but the base GDP has been growing very high, very quickly. So it's 6.5% on 11 trillion is bigger than 2.5% on 18 trillion. So China will still add more in dollar terms to global GDP. And these two, the interplay between the two is very important for the rest of the world. If you take Indonesia, for example, they export mainly to China. They export tin and copper commodities to China, and they borrow in US dollars from the US. So if the US interest rates go up and Chinese demand goes down, then they have potentially a problem both on the income side and the cost of finance side. And Indonesia is not alone. There's many other countries in the world that are observing those two. The two supporting actors that I mentioned, Europe and Japan, both are experiencing very low growth. Japan for many years, Europe now. They have massive monetary policy stimulus currently in play, negative official interest rates in both places. So if you're a bank in either Europe or in Japan and you want to give money, to put money with the central bank, they will charge you for the cost of storing your cash instead of paying you interest.
It's astonishing in Bangladesh, but reality in the
reality in those two big countries is negative interest rates. So the global economy is characterized by growth which is below trend. Trend used to be 4%, we'll probably see 3%. Trade is growing even slower than growth. In the past, if you had growth of $1, you had trade growth of $3. Now that ratio is much lower. And as I said, there's negative interest rates and monetary stimulus. Last point in the global economy is that the Western economies have not been investing much. So it's still the consumers consuming mostly services in their domestic economies. So they're not importing as much from the rest of the world as they used to. That's the global picture.
Definitely I'll come these issues again. Please give us the interpretation. Very recently a news is there that India has taken over UK. But Indian economy has grown much more than UK.
Yes.
The size is larger than UK now.
Yes.
What is its implication? What is its interpretation?
Nothing. There's no implication. All that means is the exchange rate, the pound has dropped since the Brexit referendum. So when you look at the US dollar value of the GDP of UK, France, India, they're roughly the $2.5 trillion mark. And so when the currency drops, it's natural that the dollar GDP of the UK will go down.
It's only currency factor.
it's mainly a currency
Mainly
factor.
currency factor.
Mainly currency. But having said that, I think we have to recognize that India is doing well. India is growing at about 7% on a base of $2.5 trillion, and that is a big number. So, not to take nothing away from it, but you asked me specifically about overtaking the UK. It's mainly the currency factor.
Mainly the currency factor. There in Bangladesh, but in South Asia, this public interpretation is very exciting about the Indians taking over. Let me come to China again, because we need to know much about China. Because you are
Yes.
Earlier you were based in Singapore, and you mostly pointed to China. China's growth is lower now, 6.5. It grew 8, 9, 10% earlier. What does it mean? Is consolidation or the downsizing of Chinese economy?
Right.
What is?
So China, as you know, has grown very fast for many years. In the last 25 years, average growth rate in China was 10%. And in the same 25 years, average growth rate in Bangladesh was about 6%. What that means is, compared to 25 years ago, GDP in Bangladesh is 3 times greater, but in China, it's nearly 7 times greater. So for the Chinese person, his or her children will have a standard of living in 1 generation, which for us will take 2.5 generations. So it's been a dramatic, rapid growth. It was built on infrastructure, and then after China entered the WTO, it was built on exporting and trade. It is natural that as your GDP level goes up, your speed of growth will slow down. It's just like a person. When you get bigger and bigger, you're no longer 100-meter, you don't run as fast as you used to. So the good interpretation is that Chinese slowdown is nothing catastrophic. It is a natural outcome.
Correction or?
A correction.
Yeah.
The bad interpretation is that China needs a certain rate of growth to keep employment going, and to do that they are increasing credit at an unsustainable level. And so if you have too many failures in credit, then that could put the economy into negative gear.
I'm coming to again after a break, Mr. Siddiqi. প্রিয় দর্শক, আমরা আরেকটি ব্রেক নিচ্ছি। লুৎফি সিদ্দিকীর কাছে অনেক কিছু শোনার আছে আমার, আমরা শুনবো আরেকটি ব্রেক। প্রিয় দর্শক, ফিরে এলাম অর্থ সংলাপে, ফিরে এলাম বিশ্ব অর্থনীতি সংলাপে। কারণ বিশ্ব অর্থনীতির মনিটর করছেন একজন লন্ডন স্কুল অফ ইকোনমিক্স ভিজিটিং প্রফেসর, একজন সফল বাংলাদেশি লুৎফি সিদ্দিকী আছেন আমাদের সাথে। মিস্টার সিদ্দিক, হোয়াট ইউ টোল্ড অ্যাবাউট China, because global attention is to China. Anxiety is also there. People say, oh, China is downsizing, global economy will be downsizing.
Yes.
But what is your observation? What China will going to roll on in the next 5 years?
So we have to be worried about China, even if China doesn't have to worry about China. Let me explain. It's quite possible that China will have a stable growth rate of 6.5% by shifting the engine of growth from investments and exports to consumption and services. But for the rest of the world, whose business model was to export to China, that is still not a good outcome, because if China stops or it slows down its rate of fixed investments, then it's not going to buy commodities at the same rate as it used to in the past. And if China needs to depreciate its currency to keep its export competitiveness, then everybody else who also exports to Western economies will have a very large competitor that they will have to deal with. So I think the worry about China is real, but the worry about China exploding is not real, or may not be real. We just don't know about that.
I think Trump is very close to the world. He's coming very soon. What will be his relation, economic relation, the trade policy with China and
So we know what he says. We don't know what he will do. But the point is that there are too many of these political risks, geopolitical risks, in the global economy right now.
Yeah.
There is Trump, and what will he do in terms of trade relations? Will there be more protectionism? There is the Brexit vote that took place in the UK, and the negotiations will start after the UK triggers Article 50. There are lots of elections in Europe. There's a German elections coming up. There's a French elections. There's the Netherlands elections. China has its party congress coming up in October as well. Iran has elections. So there's just too many political risks right now that we don't know about. And so when you have heightened risks, that causes a reduction in business confidence, and that's not good for global growth.
Do you think the recent clash with the US and Russia, they expelled many diplomats from US, it has any economic implication on USA, on Russia and global economy?
Not any direct implication that I can think of, because Russia is a relatively small economy, relatively speaking. It's been shrinking, negative growth last year. It had sanctions on them for a while. So the direct repercussion is not, I think, that significant. The markets are not focusing on that. The indirect effects are around what will be the new world order. So since the early 90s, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, we had a single global order. The United States was the single policeman of the world. So your goods, your ships could travel on the sea lanes of the world because the US military would protect it. US security umbrella has been a public good for many years. Now, either the US will not want to do it, or they may not be allowed to do it. We may have multiple poles. It's the uncertainty and the change at a structural level, which is more of a risk than just the specifics of the Russia-US.
Do you think the risk that Trump will pull out all their security infrastructure, US patronized security infrastructure, very soon?
I don't think so. I'm not an expert on that, but I think it would be highly irrational to just pull out of that. What he might do is he might say to other members of NATO, mainly the European partners, you guys need to pay more to the costs of maintaining the military setup.
Let me go to again Chinese issue, because we want to relate with Bangladesh again.
Yes.
Chinese president, when visited Bangladesh, he offered $24 billion plus investment opportunities for Bangladesh, and it is irritated someone, maybe as a newspaper reported. What is your observation about the China-Bangladesh relation in terms of economy?
Yes.
Economic diplomacy and economy.
I think in many ways Bangladesh and countries like Bangladesh are in a very good position, because they will have China, there is still the Western money, there is still Japanese money that will be interested in coming to Bangladesh. The fundamentals are solid, infrastructure requirements are great, and in terms of investment opportunities there are many of them. And there is a geopolitical intention also. China has the One Belt, One Road policy. So from Bangladesh's point of view, I think we should be open to everybody, and we should take what we can. We should negotiate hard, but I like the fact that we have the Japanese helping us build another terminal at the airport, the Chinese helping with the metro rail. We already have 4-lane highway to Chittagong. Infrastructure, it's been some great things happening here, I think.
How long and how far we can make us open, because we cannot invite easily China to build out ports, deep sea port. We cannot easily invite China to give us more submarines. Don't you think that this economic invitation or economic opportunity invite more political risks?
It's possible. We just have to be careful, but we should be open. I think we just need to be. We have to be mindful of the fact that at the moment we have a great opportunity to attract capital. Globally, the US Federal Reserve expanded its balance sheet from $800 billion in 2008 to $4.5 trillion. So, more than 4.5 times.
Others' money or US money?
The US money. There's more dollars in circulation because of that expansion. The Japanese have expanded their quantity of money. Europe has done that. China is keen to do that. So there's a lot of money out there. We have a window of opportunity right now. Because, as everybody knows, we have a demographic advantage. Young population. Most other countries don't have that. But we will not have that advantage forever. There is a time window that we need to really latch onto. And now is the time. We need capital. We have a tremendous dependence on foreign remittance or ready-made garments, and I don't think we can grow that indefinitely. So we'll need, on the external front, more foreign capital to come in. We need to diversify our sources of income. We need to build our human capital, our physical infrastructure, our soft infrastructure, and we need to do it urgently. And so we have to be open to capital.
But there is a public fear in countries, in many countries, even in Bangladesh, that the foreign capitals, huge or very extra large foreign capitals sometimes make problem for a country.
Yes. So it's a choice. You can be completely closed and you have a certain quality of life, or you might want to raise standards of living in a sustainable way through growth. I just mentioned, I just compared the Chinese story of the last 25 years to us. And to do that, we have to build productivity. Ultimately, standards of living go up if we have a sustainable growth in productivity. Productivity means what is the output per capita per hour. So
I'm
what
coming to you again, Mr. Lutfey.
Yeah.
I'm going to another break and I'm coming to again.
Okay.
প্রিয় দর্শক, আমরা ফিরে আসছি একটি বিরতির পর, কার তারপরে শুনবো বিশ্ব অর্থনীতি এবং বাংলাদেশের সম্ভাবনা নিয়ে আরও কিছু। প্রিয় দর্শক, ফিরে এলাম অর্থ সংলাপে, ফিরে এলাম বিশ্ব অর্থনীতি এবং বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতির বর্তমান এবং ভবিষ্যৎ নিয়ে সংলাপে। কারণ এই সংলাপের পর্যালোচনা আমরা শুনবো লুৎফে সিদ্দিকির কাছে, যিনি সদ্য সাবেক ম্যানেজিং ডিরেক্টর সুইস ব্যাংক এবং এখন লন্ডন স্কুল অফ ইকোনমিক্স এবং সিঙ্গাপুরের ন্যাশনাল ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ সিঙ্গাপুরের ভিজিটিং প্রফেসর। মিস্টার সিদ্দিকি, হোয়াট ইউ টোল্ড অ্যাবাউট দ্য opportunity of global capital, abundant capital is there and Bangladesh can grab. You know, there is anxiety in Bangladesh. Sometimes there is a barrier from the bankers that you don't take more money from abroad, because Bangladesh is used to bring some money from foreign. What should be the ideal for Bangladesh?
There is a balance that needs to be struck, but I think it's also a fact that we need to improve our financial ecosystem, whether it's the banking system or capital markets or bond markets, insurance and pensions. Our financial ecosystem can be developed. I sit on the World Economic Forum Council on capital markets and infrastructure, and I see many other countries working very hard to develop a bond market and to develop better standards of transparency and corporate governance to reduce the non-performing loan ratio. I was reading the World Bank report and the Bangladesh Bank report that our NPL ratio is higher than many of our peer group. We need to do something about that, because when you have a mix of bad loans and good loans in the same bucket, interest rates high for everybody. And to bring that interest rates down, we need to be able to differentiate better, and we need to have multiple sources of capital. Banks, capital markets, bond markets, domestic, foreign, diversify.
Then, as you are from Swiss Bank, you were telling about capitals.
No, not anymore.
You had been there.
Yes.
Their allegations are there. There's the Bangladeshi capital. Bangladeshi capital are taken out from the country to buy houses in Montreal, to properties in Singapore. Many Bangladesh is on the top list of global list where capitals are going out from the country illegally. What is your observation? How can we protect that?
I read the same stuff as you do, so I don't have any special view on that. But if you just look at economic motivation for where you want to put your money, I just gave you the picture of the world economy, which is below trend growth, not many opportunities. And I think the direction of money coming in will be inside, inwards into Bangladesh, not going out. The opportunities are over here. We need to just improve the ecosystem a little bit more, because the fundamentals are strong. But for the fundamentals and the potentials to be realized, you need to have the packaging on top. And that is the finance area, it's the ease of doing business, it's bureaucratic processes, all of that's entirely within our control as a country. And I think if we do a little bit better on that, the fundamentals are very strong. I would expect more money to come in and not go out.
That it will be made by motivation only.
Yes.
What is your observation about the government and policies? How these are going on right track, or you have suggestions to the government and stakeholders?
So I have no suggestions for politics because that's something I don't understand. All I will say is that it's good when there are no hartals, and I think 2016 was the first year in many years that we had none.
The fewest hartal in many decades, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
And it's also good when we are able to resolve conflict in a certain way, whether it's political conflict, whether it's commercial disputes, how the culture of a country resolves dispute has a bearing on the confidence that investors have. I think it is a paradox that we are the most homogeneous country in terms of ethnic diversity. We're very homogeneous compared to many other Southeast Asian countries. We have done so well in women empowerment and diversity from that point of view, but we are the only country in this region where one party does not accept the election results when the other party wins. This is the only country in the world where that happens. Now, it's on the one hand, it's not that big a deal, but I'm just giving it to you as a signal that the more we can signal to the world that we can resolve conflict in a certain way, the more you get long-term commitment of capital, long-term investments, and we need that.
Given the present dealings of issues, where do you see Bangladesh after 5 years in economy, global economy, everywhere?
One of the things we need to appreciate is this concept of the fourth industrial revolution. We're in the middle, the world is in the middle of a fourth industrial revolution, which is a technology-driven, extreme connectivity, robotics, extreme automation, artificial intelligence. I don't think we realize how dramatically this is going to change business models, how we live our lives, and so on. And it could be potentially very risky for a country that relies on cheap labor for routine tasks that can be automated, or it can be very positive because it's an opportunity to leapfrog and do things completely differently. We can invent a way to work in a densely populated country, because we're the most densely populated country in the world. We can invent ways in which healthcare is administered through technology. So it could be a huge opportunity or it could be a risk. But today we need to really put a framework on the fourth industrial revolution. I'm positive, mainly because I think of the cricket team in Bangladesh. 9 years ago, I think, it was 8 or 9 years ago, I spoke at a conference in Bangladesh, and I said at that time that why is it that we can't find 11 players out of 150 million people to beat a country like New Zealand that has the population of Dhanmondi? And at the time, people thought I was being unfair. They said, look, we're a poor country, they're a rich country. Look, today, New Zealand still has 10 times the per capita income as we do, but we have a world-class team. We have some of the best players in the world. Think about why. We have the best coaches, whether it's foreign, whether it's domestic. No one cares about foreign coach, but you're telling me they care about foreign capital. No one cares about quality of recruitment in cricket because it's a meritocracy. The results are obvious. If you don't hire the right person, you get the wrong result. So I use the cricket analogy. What have we done so well in cricket? What have we done so well in the social enterprise sector? Whereas Bangladesh is renowned in the world for social indicator involvements. How can we use that in the commercial sector and the public sector? That's my message.
Oh, fantastic. In a very short period of time, you have dealt a lot of issues, and thank you very much, Mr. Lutfey, for coming to Katu and meet our viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.
প্রিয় দর্শক, লুৎফে সিদ্দিকী পেলাম অনেকদিন পর। তিনি সুইস ব্যাংকের সাবেক এমডি এবং সিঙ্গাপুরের যে বিখ্যাত ইউনিভার্সিটি, ন্যাশনাল ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ সিঙ্গাপুর, লন্ডন স্কুল অফ ইকোনমিক্স, তার ভিজিটিং প্রফেসর। তিনি যেভাবে বললেন ইস্যুসগুলো, আশাবাদের কথা বললেন, সারা বিশ্বের অর্থনীতির যে বিকাশ সম্ভাবনা তার কথা বলেন, সেই বর্তমান যে অ্যাবান্ডেন্ট ক্যাপিটাল সেখান থেকে কীভাবে বাংলাদেশ এনে সেখান থেকে ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার গ্রো করা যেতে পারে। পলিটিক্যাল রিস্কের কথা বলেন, যদিও আমরা 2016টা কাটিয়েছি খুব দারুণভাবে, 2017তেও যাতে আমরা দারুণ একটা বছর পার করে বাংলাদেশের ইকোনমিক সাস্টেনেবল হইতে গ্রো করতে পারি, এই প্রত্যাশা রেখে আজকে এখানে শেষ করলাম। আপনাদের সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ।